Hi guys, are you running a fleet of trenching machines and you're not quite getting the production that you want out of them? Are you having a lot of unnecessary breakdowns on the machine? Have you got a client that really up your ribs about loss of production and not performing as per your contract? This week I want to get into the preventative maintenance of trenching equipment, okay? It's a big problem and it needs to be addressed in my view. So let's get into it.
Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum. Hello construction world, Christopher from Oryx Consulting. Look, I wanted to get into this week. I've done a lot of videos on preventative maintenance and of course I'm going to continue to do a lot more videos on preventative maintenance. One of the problems that I find a lot here in the GCC or Greater Middle East region is a lot of people that own trenching equipment but don't necessarily know the proper way or the proper methodology of carrying out their preventative maintenance. You're talking about machines that move thousands, tens of thousands of cubic meters of material efficiently. There's thousands of moving parts on a trenching machine, and if you're only going to look at the price per meter that you're getting paid and neglect the maintenance side of this, it's going to get costly, and it's going to get costly very, very quickly. We find this from a lot of customers of ours, and they're coming to us when it's too late. And what do I mean by too late? They're coming to us after they've had a major failure. I'll give you an example. Just recently, or just before the end of last year, client came to us and said that did I know, the first inquiry was, did I know of some teeth on the market that were better than what I would classify as the best tooth on the market? Not necessarily the cheapest tooth on the market, but the quality wise, the best tooth on the market. And I said, no, you're running the highest quality tooth. They were burning hundreds of teeth a day, hundreds of teeth. The area that they were in was hard. It was hard material, but it didn't warrant the amount of teeth that they were burning through. And I said to this particular customer, I said, I don't think you've got a problem with your tooth or the quality of your ground engaging equipment. I said, I think you've got a problem with your operation. A few discussions backwards and forwards. What we learned, they were actually operating this machine at full speed in hard rock. Now, to those of us that know, you would probably, your jaw would hit the floor like mine did. I couldn't believe that in this day and age someone would still do this with a trenching machine. We offered our services. We said, look, we can come there, we can train you people, we can even do it on a Zoom call. There was an array of options that we put forward for this customer. Our services were deemed too expensive, okay, in a nutshell. That's what we got told, they were too expensive. Now, we offered around a week to train the operators and the maintenance staff on the preventative maintenance and the operation of their trenching equipment. Look, it's a minuscule amount of in a dollar term for that particular operator. What happened, within 2 weeks, he'd blown up the drive system and gearbox on his machine. The machine went down, there was none in country, it turned into quite a large operation. We got asked if we knew where there was gearboxes available and so on and so forth. So this became extremely costly for the owner of that trenching machine, and I keep saying it, and you'll continue to hear me say it. Tripping over $2 to pick up 5 cents is not, in no way, shape or form is that any way to conduct businesses, particularly with trenching equipment. You know, high dollar equipment moving thousands of cubic meters of material with thousands of parts, I should say. It's extremely important to do the maintenance and get it properly, get it done properly, you know. It's not, the art of doing the maintenance is extremely simple. It's not difficult, okay? If you know what you're doing and you have mechanics, it's not difficult. It comes down to the education and training your people what to do and what not to do with trenching equipment. Things like, you know, checking your waters and your oils and things like that daily it goes without saying. I should say it in this region because sometimes, a lot of times, I find it just doesn't happen, the basics. The oils, the fluids, shall I say, are extremely important. The quality of fluids that you use, particularly when you start getting into the hydrostatic, full hydrostatic machines. These run a pump drive box. Predominantly, most of them are all a Funk drive box. Funk uses a specific synthetic oil in them. If you don't use this synthetic oil, you will, not maybe, you will have a premature failure of that Funk box. 100% guaranteed, no question in my mind about that. Seen it time and time and time again. It does have a dipstick on it in these Funk boxes, but I'm telling you now, it is the regular changing of this oil. Now, I'm going back to, look, probably 8 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago. This oil type in a mobile brand we were using in Australia at the time was around, it was just under 700 Australian dollars for 20 litres of this particular oil, okay? Fast forward to one particular contractor who had a failure on that Funk box. That cost him tens of thousands of dollars, not in downtime, just in repair costs to repair that. Had to get I think it was around a 250 tonne crane in to lift it out of the trench, get the boom up, get it onto a low buoy, get it into a yard, lift again, the crane came back in to lift it off. Horrendously expensive for the sake of, now this was a failure, this was a 100% failure. There was many hours on this machine. I know that they were doing their maintenance properly, but you know, it may have missed some oil earlier in the piece. There could have been, you know, we can't stop machines just for the sake of stopping machines. I understand that and I appreciate that, but whatever the case was, this happened and it shouldn't have happened, okay? It's one of those things that sometimes you just can't explain it, okay? There's always a reason, there's always a cause for it, but our involvement with it was to quickly get the machine up and running again, which is what we did. We weren't involved in the preventative maintenance of this machine in the early days, but I do know that this machine was maintained, I will say that. So, you know, fluids are one thing, but checking the right oil levels and that, but it's getting into the types of the fluids. Are you using the correct fluids? Are you changing it at the correct service intervals, you know? Moving away from that, that's all run-of-the-mill kind of things. We can help you with that kind of stuff over the phone. That's not very difficult. The air to the engine on a trenching machine, now anyone that runs them knows how dusty the environments can be. Sure, there's a lot of technology on the market now that removes some of that dust out of the equation. Cross-country pipelines, you know, I can't see, not on cross-country pipelines where I particularly build pipelines, I can't see that technology coming in my lifetime anyway. I'm sure in and around cities and tunnels and things like that where they're used, yeah, fantastic, wonderful ideas. But the life of that engine comes down to the air filter. Now, there's only so many times that you can blow an air filter out. I still see it to this day, people pulling the air filter out and bashing it on the ground to get the dust out of it. I tell you, it's going to end in disaster, and it's going to end in tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage to your engine, okay? Stop doing it. Set up your vehicle, set up your preventative maintenance vehicle, your operator's vehicle with the basic necessities to service that equipment properly. Air compressor, greaser, these kinds of things, okay? The air cleaners and the way that you induct the air into that engine is imperative to the life of your machine and of the engine and of that machine. We've modified many machines over the years. We've lifted the air intakes way up into the air to try and get them out of the dust. We've experimented with all different kinds of pre-filters, pre-filter arrangements and all of that. I'm not going to tell you what's fantastic, what's not, what we've tried, and you know, it's what works with you. The name of the game is to reduce as much dust getting to that filter as possible. So whatever you can do, whatever means necessary that are available to you, do it. You know, air filters, they're cheap in the big picture, the big scheme, but it's something you must do. You must keep that air clean into that engine. I can't stress that enough. You know, we've had projects in Western Queensland in Australia where we've literally had to do the cleaning of the air filters every 3 hours. You know, get to 6 hours, the machines would literally shut down because the air filter would suck in and restrict the air into the engine. You know, it can get extremely dusty and can get there very quickly. So one of those things just to be very careful of. But carry spares with you, have spares with you, you know. Have a procedure and a plan in place that you're only cleaning those air cleaners so many times before they're discarded, okay? Caterpillar, you know, you may have Cummins engines, whatever the case may be, they will have some kind of advice that they can give you on the life of the engine, but any mechanic knows when a air cleaner is unserviceable anymore and needs to be replaced, you know. So just keep that in mind. There is a lot of dust with these engines. So I suppose while we're on dust, we should look at the one of the most overlooked areas to maintain on a trenching machine, and that's breathers. Now, depending on your machine, depends on the type of breathers they have, where they're located and how many that you have. So, you know, I'm talking about things like gearbox breathers, the funk box breather. You know, you might run an old mechanical, when I say old, they're still building them these days, a mechanical style. You know, you might have breathers on the chain boxes. There might be an array of breathers. Again, this is an area where we've modified these before to ensure that the breathers are adequate to the environment that you're in, okay? Just because a manufacturer comes out with a particular breather doesn't mean it's the right breather, okay? Just keep that in mind, you know. You need to be able to be proactive in the maintenance of that machine. So clean them out regularly. You know, some of these will run a remote breather, and they'll have a pipe associated with that. You're always going to get like the oil fume, the oil vapor, I should say, in some of those pipes. Now, if it's got a sagging loop in it at all, that oil will build up. The dust will potentially over time will build up in there, and it can block that tube, okay? So, you know, breathers is very important. You'll blow seals out when breathers aren't working properly, you know. It's just downtime that shouldn't happen because these are all 100% preventable. When you get your machine off a project and get it into the shop, replace them. You know, again, they're cheap. Just replace the breathers. Make sure that the breathers are suitable to your task. They're in an area where they can do their job efficiently. Can you put a remote block in and put one really good breather in there that's a serviceable style breather? You know, like there's so many different options available to you, but dust is a killer on this type of equipment. So just be very careful with that. Something to be aware of, because they're one of those things that are mostly overlooked, you know. Moving away from that now, preventative maintenance to me, and I keep saying this, it's regular maintenance, okay? Having a maintenance team, having a mechanic, and going to your equipment on a regular basis, you have no idea the potential issues down the road that you're going to save yourself by doing that. I went and visited a contractor here who runs quite a few, I'm going to say large trenching machines. Great guys, good maintenance team. The problem that they have is that they're not sending their maintenance team to their equipment often enough. They're kind of in the mindset that, oh, we can't stop the machine, so, you know, if we're not there, then we're not stopping the machine. It is the biggest false economy I've ever heard in my time, and of course they have a lot of unexpected breakdowns on their equipment. The guys, when that does break down, the guys get into it, and they get into it extremely quickly, efficiently, and they get the job done. They've got a good stock of parts and all these kinds of things. You need to be at that machine every day as a mechanic. No ifs, no buts, no I couldn't get there today or anything like that. You have to see that machine every day. You have to be the one that is giving the operator advice, is understanding if he's got some problems. You need to get that rapport going with your operator. I keep saying it, but it's something that needs to be rammed home until everyone understands it. Get your rapport going with your operator. You need to help him. You need to be able to support him. As a mechanic, as the maintenance team, you are part of the support network so that the client can get his pipe in the ground. That's what you're doing. It might be cable, whatever the case may be. The maintenance team is the support vessel to ensure production gets what they need to do. Okay, that's your job. So part of that is understanding when you can run the machine, and more importantly, when you need to shut that machine down. 5 minutes today is 5 hours tomorrow. So make sure your maintenance team is getting to the equipment. It's extremely important. Don't cut corners with it. You're paying the mechanics anyway, whether they're in the workshop or out at the machine. You need to then convey the message to your mechanics about, you can't just physically stop a machine for the sake of stopping it. Work around your operators. Okay, when are you starting the machine? When are you stopping for lunch? When do you stop in the afternoon? And work in with that. You need to be there before they're starting the machine. You need to be there lunchtime when they stop for 30 minutes, whatever the case may be, and be there in the afternoon. It's a long gig being a mechanic. It's long days, and it's unrewarded work from an outsider's point of view. But if you are a mechanic, and you keep equipment productive and you keep it going, personally, the rewards are fantastic, I find anyway. So make sure your maintenance team is educated in the right aspects of just, being there, inspecting the equipment and keeping on top of everything. 5 minutes today is 5 hours tomorrow. Always remember that. Let's get into the chain. I mean, the chain is the business end, shall we say? It's the one it's where steel meets earth. It's copping an absolute beating. One of the things I find here in the GCC region, hard facing, it's a swear word, and why, I have no idea. If you're running a trenching machine and you don't have your mechanic, your maintenance team, whatever you want to call them, hard facing that machine every time that it stops, give up. Sell your machines, sell out now, go home, because you're wasting your time, you're wasting your money's just going out the window, and above all, you're letting your client down. Okay, hard facing preventative maintenance is hard facing that machine every time it stops. Okay, it's not a matter of just replacing teeth and all these kinds of things. So hard facing, I can't stress it enough, and you can get in some extremely hard sections of earth. We've done all kinds of things to try and limit the amount of wear, and they've got some really good products on the market, chalky blocks and things like this that you can weld on. But we used to use, honestly, we would use sometimes the old grader cutting edges that were left over. We would cut that up and we'd weld that onto machines, onto their chains and things like that. Whatever you can do to stop the wear of that, of your chain, your plates and everything like that, do it. It's going to save you in the long run. Chains are expensive, plates are expensive, having plates built are expensive, so it's something that needs to be done. Again, it needs to be done regularly. Chain tension is something that when you get it right, things run smoothly. It's one of those things I just can't stress enough. I see things come out of the chains come out of the ground when I first go and inspect the machine, and very rarely will I find one where the adjustment's correct. Okay, now I understand that, again, you can't just stop a machine just because it's the second that it's out of adjustment. I get that. Okay, but you need to program in. You know, I've seen chains that it's a wonder that they haven't skipped off. They've been that loose. It's something that has to be done. You have to keep your chain tension right. Your manufacturer is the key there. Your manufacturer, the longer the boom you have, the more slack your chain needs to be. But again, refer back to your manufacturer. Your manufacturer will help you to no end with what they recommend for their equipment. But your chain tension is extremely important. One of the things I see a lot of here in the particularly in Saudi, haven't seen it so much in Oman, but particularly in Saudi, is this use of a water truck with a hose, and a man sitting there with a hose spraying down the teeth. Now, when you dig material, you get a lot of dust associated with it, as we spoke before. The dust turns into a paste when you wet it. Now, the pockets which hold the teeth, the whole concept is the tooth is meant to rotate, okay, so you don't wear one side of the tooth. When you wet down your teeth, whether you're trying to keep the tips cool or whatever you're trying to do, I have no idea, because if it's dust, you know, it's got no, that won't hold up with me, because it's not the dust, it's out in the middle of the desert. It's got to do with cool. I really don't know why, but anyway, I see it in video after video after video. When you do this, you have a greater potential of the tooth stopping to turn. What's going to happen? Your tooth is going to sit there and wear on one side or one area, and it's going to prematurely wear. These teeth, you know, they $20 to $40 a tooth. You don't want to be just throwing them away just because it's not turning. So you have to have the right information, for your team to understand what it is to maintain a trencher correctly. You know, you might think you're doing the right thing, but I can guarantee you, unless you have a great understanding of how everything is meant to work, you could be wasting a lot of money. You could be throwing a lot of money away for the sake of, I thought I was doing a good thing, you know. If you don't know, ask. It's not that difficult to come to us. We'll come to your job. We'll give you a really good rundown of what needs to be done. We'll train your people, whatever the case may be. You need to get the right information. Education's key. Like anything in life, education is key, okay? The chain itself, I mean, there's different teeth. You know, I won't get into that. GET, that's a big discussion for another day, because it's an art. It's an art form. It's years and years of understanding what works, what doesn't work, you know, and I'm still learning on teeth, okay? So it's what works in your particular application, and the more notes that you take, the better off that you're going to be. So, you know, this is why I say you need to be at your machine every day inspecting it as a mechanic, as the equipment manager. You know, you need to be there every day. If you're there 5 or 10 minutes a day to ensure your guys are doing the right thing as an equipment manager, I can guarantee you life will be easy. It really will be, you know. Consistency is key with this kind of thing. Regular checking, okay? And I don't mean the fluids, we've been through that, we understand all of that. I mean checking of the chain, checking of the, you know, your pins and bushes on the chain, checking on all your hardware that holds the plates to the chain, checking your number ones, checking your number one sprockets, you know, or your drive sprockets, whatever you want to call them, checking for leaks on your head shaft, checking everything, the wear plates, the cheek plates, everything, the wear plates underneath, the idler. There's so many areas. This isn't, you know, I'm not talking hours here, this is just check, 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 check. Get into a rhythm. You know, it's like learning to drive, really. I can go to a trenching machine now after not being to one for some time. My eyes just go like that. It's like driving and scanning the road. That's exactly what it is. So, you know, get into, you know, the areas that you need to check, okay? Start with the head shaft. Leaks, check, that's all okay. Can I get up, torch, where's the number ones? Yep, they're good to go. When the bar's up out of the ground, get in there, check in the pins and bushes. Yeah, how's that wear going? Check quite a few in a row, because they won't hit every, some of these, they won't hit on every bush like so. Just something to be aware of, but get into a habit, get that, habit down pat of boom, 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 work in the circle and work your way through idler. One of the areas too that I find on chains where the plate comes pretty much to the edge of the chain where they bolt on. We had a lot of material on one particular job. It was cutting really well, but it was highly abrasive material in Western Australia, and that material would get on the underside of the chain and it would wear through nuts and bolts that held on those outer nuts and bolts like I've never seen before. It was unbelievable. We ended up welding on some, this is where we used some of the old grater cutting edges, welded them on a slight angle to keep the material away from there. It worked really well. It was just something that the Boilermaker at the time said, hey, why don't we try this? Yeah, let's do it. It's better than unbolting and bolting on bolts all the time. So we did that and it worked. So, work with people, work with your operators, work with your Boilermakers, whatever the case may be, but just get into that rhythm, get into that process of working through problems when you get them, because when you're cutting dirt, as everyone knows, not every job is going to be the same. What else to talk about while we're on the chain? Preventative maintenance on the chain area always comes down to check. I'm just looking at a trenching machine, a 1660 up behind me here on a picture. The main bolts that hold the bar in, check those. Where your extension blocks are, check the bolts on those. Again, it's 2 seconds to check these things. It's not difficult, A lot of those bolts on a particular brand that hold the bar in, if you don't prepare it properly when you put that bar in, they run a terrible risk of coming loose all the time. So it's something to keep an eye on. When you're down doing a service, make sure that you get the socket on those heads of those bolts and make sure they're tight. I can't stress it enough. It's just simple things. Okay, conveyor belt. There's a lot to discuss with the chain, but if you're working in and around trenching machines, and you have done for some time, where the problem areas are, and it's about being ahead of those problem areas. And 9 times out of 10, checking things and carrying out your hard facing and all those kinds of things will eliminate a lot of those. Also, just recapping on wetting things down. It turns into a grinding paste. It stops teeth from turning. Don't prevent something from doing what it's meant to be doing, okay? The cylinders. Cylinders is a really overlooked area of trenching machines, in my opinion. I don't know why, but people seem to overlook them. Cylinders have the potential, especially when you rip and rock from earth. They can get chipped, they can get damaged, depending on the location of them and all these kinds of things. Keep an eye on it. Like if you've been in a particularly very rocky area and there's bits of rock flying when you're honking it out of the ground, check those cylinders. Just run your hands down through them. Put a torch on them at night time. Check it out. See if there's any bruising on there. The sake of just getting a stone is what we used to use that you sharpen knives with. That's how we used to take a lot of the bruising and chips out of some of that chrome. So just keep a really good eye on those. Keep a good eye on the seals as well. I mean, a lot of them face up, these seals, and they're just dirt that sits on top of them. When you're out with your air blower, just give it a blow every now and again. Just clean them off. Cleanliness is next to godliness, as they trained us with being a mechanic with Caterpillar. So just simple little things that you can do while you're on the cylinders, all the hoses and the hose cylinders and things like that. Make sure that you make sure that you check that there's no rocks and little stones and things like that that are down in between them when they're cable tied together. Those little things, just little simple like a stone in between two hoses that are vibrating all the time. You know, it's simple little things to check. It's not that difficult, but you know, it doesn't have to be every day on those kinds of things, but needs to be checked nonetheless. So something to be aware of. Okay, moving back from the cylinders, the conveyor belt. Now here's another area that really needs a lot of attention. The bearings, bearings on these, sometimes they're difficult to get into, but you know, these are the types of things that need checking in the early morning or late in the evening when the machine's shut down and all of that, while the operator's greasing the machine. These are the kinds of things that you can quickly get in there. Hey, while the operator's up there, side shift all the way one way, get in there, check, check, check. Quick shake of all the shafts, make sure that nothing's wearing out, or excessively wearing out, I should say. Put the conveyor belt, side shift out the other side, check, check, check. Any damage to the conveyor belt as well, I mean, you get an edge damage on these kinds of things, it can tear a belt quickly. So if you see an edge starting to rip, scallop it out, get rid of that cut and prevent a failure coming up. Skirting rubber, extremely important, never to overlook the skirting rubber. I mean, getting dirt in behind there and trying to keep the dirt out of the bearings. It goes so much into preventative maintenance on the, you know, an excessive wear or unexpected wear just for the sake of some cheap skirting rubber, you know. So keep a good eye on your skirting rubber on those kinds of things. All of your drive mechanisms, now there's so many different drives, from the hydraulic motor I'm talking about to the actual shaft. So you know, some of them run Lovejoy couplings, all different kinds of things. Whatever the case may be, always, every day, you need to be keeping an eye on those, because you know, those Lovejoy couplings, those neoprene couplings, they seem to have a life where they'll go so far and you think, geez, they're wearing really, really well, and then like that, overnight they're toast. So, and they need turning around and things like that. So you know, keep a really good constant eye on it. Keep it, some of them are chain drive, there's all kinds of different drives out there. Whatever the case may be, consistency is key, like I keep saying. With the actual conveyor belt, the actual belts themselves, so many different options out there. Some have lugs welded on them, some have teats, like the Vermeer ones with the teats and the built-in skirting rubbers on them. So many different options, so much to keep an eye on there. But just one thing to remember, once you cleats start removing or teats start ripping off, you lose the efficiency of moving that dirt off the belt. So something to be very, very careful of, that you know, you can afford on some of those Vermeers to lose so many, but you know, once they start really removing, the efficiency of your machine is dropping. Okay, the effectiveness of it to get the dirt out of the trench onto the conveyor belt and out to the side, that's going to drop down. So it's going to have, like everything, it will have roll-on effects down the line. So something to be very, very aware of there. Smells and is one of the, you know, smells and noises, I suppose. I could come up to a machine and you would know straight away if you could smell a hydraulic leak, if you could smell a gear oil leak, anything like this. You just knew, like, hang on. And again, consistency is key. If you're visiting that machine every day, you know what that machine sounds like, you know what that machine smells like. I know it sounds really weird, but it's true. If you can go up to that machine and find out whether it's, you know, hang on, I smell something different. The operators are always onto it. You know, a good operator, he smells something, he shut it down. Can you come here? I smell something different, you know. While it's shut down, and this is probably a bonus of having a very dusty type of environment, oil leaks you can find very, very quickly on this type of equipment. I mean, the dust sticks to it and it's sticking out like a sore thumb, you know. So oil leaks, while you might think, oh, that's not too bad, that one's all right, I can tell you right now, 5 minutes today is 5 hours tomorrow. So find out first of all where it's coming from and what's causing it. Is it coming from a seal because out of, say, a funk box? Check the breather. You know, simple little thing. Check the breather. Is the breather blocked up? You know, this could be the difference between, hey, I need to go and get a $5 breather, to, boss, we need a new, you know, 20-something, 30-something $1,000 funk box. You know, these are all the types of things where education is key on this type of equipment. And knowing your equipment, okay, you might run Vermeer, you might run Trencor, you might run Tesmec, it doesn't matter what you run, it's understanding your equipment, and in particular your machine, your year model, what that machine, what the idiosyncrasies of that machine are. You know, it's very, very important that you get that you educate your maintenance team and your operators on your equipment, okay? Conveyor belt, yeah, look, there's bearing shafts, rubber, skirting rubber, lots and lots of checks on those kinds of things, and plan it in. You know when your belt's starting to wear out and the joiner's starting to wear out, do you need to replace the you know, the cable for the joiner? Is the joiner past it? Have you got enough room to shorten that belt and put a new joiner on? So many questions, but it all comes down to, again, that consistency, seeing every machine every day. And also understanding when those machines, they're not running in the same, generally speaking, they're not running in the same ground all the time. You know, you're going to come through some good easy going and you're going to come through some really hard going. So your maintenance strategy must be flexible to move very, very quickly. You know, well, we've hit some rock, we're going to have to really up the hard facing. You know, okay, so I might have to get some more sleep in the morning and I need to stay back later of a night time, whatever the case may be. So need to be very, very flexible with that to get the right preventative maintenance with your equipment. I mentioned it before, but I really want to reiterate this. Your relationship between your maintenance personnel, whether that be the equipment manager, the mechanic, the serviceman, whatever the case may be, your boilermaker, and the operator, that relationship needs to be as good as gold. You know, a good operator can make life really, really easy for you. An untrained, uneducated operator can make life extremely tough for you, and as a business owner, as a machine owner, it can make life terrible for you, and it can make life extremely expensive very, very quickly. You know, these are big machines that run some big ticket items, so you know, anyone that wants to just put them out in the field and think that they can run for weeks on end with no maintenance and no one checking them apart from oil and water, I'll keep saying it. Hand your machines in and get out of it while you can, because you're putting off the inevitable. You really are. If you're not preventative maintaining your machine, you know, forget about it. If you're dry hiring equipment, and I can't stress this enough as well, if you're dry hiring equipment, you need regular, and I mean seriously regular, checks on that equipment to support the people that are dry hiring that off you. They mightn't know how to operate that machine. So, you know, don't just expect, oh, well, you hired it and you broke it and now you're going to have to pay for it. What did you do to try and ensure that that hirer of your equipment did the right thing? You know, that they had all the tools necessary, they had the education necessary to maintain that machine properly. You know, again, if you want to put procedures in place and need help putting procedures and checklists and things like that in place, more than happy to help you. That's what we do. But get out to your machinery and check it out, no matter where it is. Go and check your machinery. Have a really good rapport with your customer. You know, customers, they're not going to, if you keep stopping the machine, they're going to be up you like a rat up a drain pipe. But you just need to be there. Again, if you know your machinery and you know how to smell and you can hear certain things, you can hear when a machine's being greased and it's not being greased. And I suppose from a mechanical point of view, one of the checks that I'm always looking for, and I wouldn't lead with this, but something that's the first thing I'm looking for is the machine being greased? Number one question for me is the machine being greased? If that machine's being greased, I know that operator's looking after that equipment, because when you get out now, there's a lot in I like automatic greasing systems, okay, I really do. What I don't like about automatic greasing systems is it becomes extremely lazy for operators. I didn't know the grease pot was going down. You know, when you go every day with a grease gun, you know what's taking grease, you know what's not taking grease. Simple. It's not taking grease. Chris, can you get a mechanic out here? It's not taking grease in such and such a bearing, whatever the case may be. With automatic greasing systems, they get regular grease to everywhere that it needs to be. I get that. It's when it's a particular area and it's generally hidden. It's not the one out in the open. It's generally a hidden one. When it's not getting grease, you don't know until you hear it. You know, and by the time you hear it, it's too late. It's just nature of the beast with bearings and these kinds of things. So, you know, do what's right for you. But if you've got an automatic greaser, that's extra checks that you're going to have to do. But again, train your operator. Look, we've got an automatic greasing system on this, but I really need, you know, can you make sure you check, and point it out to the operator so he knows, you know. His life's easier because he doesn't have to get dirty and with all the grease guns and all these kinds of things, but at least teach him how to get in and what is expected of him to check, just to make sure that things are getting greased and that, because, you know, most operators will get terribly embarrassed when something breaks, you know, and their defense mechanism in most cases, oh, I don't know, it wasn't me, just happened, you know. A lot of that comes through, I've found over the years, is just embarrassment. They don't want their machine to break. They know it's a reflection on them, you know. So 9 times out of 10 it is. If they're quite happy to break machines, well, you've got a bigger problem than you're aware. So just something to keep in mind there. Keep that relationship open and build that relationship. You know, it takes work, like anyone knows in any kind of relationship. It takes work. So make sure that you open that communication channel and have an open platform that if something is not right with the machine, the operator feels comfortable enough to come to you and tell you. So, you know, wear pads on the tracks. There's a plethora of areas to check on a trenching machine, and to try and run through all of them. I think we've touched on most of them, but, you know, smells, listening, you know, sitting out while they're operating the machine will give you a really good understanding of how they're operating the machine. You know, is it working hard enough? Isn't it working hard enough? You know, there's you know, I've seen operators that run at 10 tenths. You know, they will screw every ounce of horsepower out of that machine and use it to its full capacity. There'll be other people who, for love nor money, I don't know why, who like to hang back on it. You know, oh, I don't want it to break and I'm really worried about it. You know, machines are there to be used, so use them, but maintain them. Make sure that you carry out your preventative maintenance. Cracks is something that that needs a lot of attention when the machine's down. So after a project's finished, you know, when you've got that downtime in the workshop, when you're carrying out a major service, really good for the equipment manager to be out there when they're doing a major service on it. Get out there with your torch, where all of those areas are, where cylinders move and, you know, stress points are. You should know where all of those kinds of things are. Check it all out, you know, like, you're there as the supervisory person to make sure that equipment runs every day. So it's up to you as much as it is to the mechanic, the maintenance team, boiler makers, all these kinds of things. So when you're doing some major downtime on the machine, make sure that you're checking for cracks. Very, very important. Hoses that are in underneath and all these kinds of things, like I keep saying, little stones and dirt and all of that loves to get in between these hoses. So make it a habit regularly. So, you know, maybe every 500 hour service or something like that, cut the cable ties loosen all those hoses, get all the dirt out and the stones out from in between them, re-cable tie them up. It'll give you a good opportunity to check wiring and check conduits and all these kinds of things. So again, when it's down for major service, take the time to do it properly. You know, bring an electrician in for a day and get him, hey, I just want you to go and do this for me. Whatever the case may be, to ensure that that machine runs every day. Operator's cabin, okay. Keeping it clean, like most operators that I know always want to keep their office clean, you know. A lot of them will put rags up to keep sun out and all these kinds of things. If you're a mechanic, help that guy, you know. If you know that there's some core flute back in the camp or something like that from an old sign, hey, I've got this, we can bring that up and put it on the window for you and all those kinds of things to try and help you. Whatever you can do to try and make that guy's life easy, it's going to help you in the long run. It's a long game, all these kinds of things. So don't be quick to don't be quick to put your operators at a distance. You know, you want to keep them close. All of the cab filters, very, very important that you keep that stuff extremely clean for the operator. No one likes to be working in an industry environment any more than they have to be. So just keep a really good eye on all that kind of stuff. You know, very, very important. On major servicing on trenching machines as well, it was on a particular brand of machine, we found that the wiring in behind the dash was atrocious. Every time there was an electrical fault, 9 times out of 10 it was through loose earths in behind the dash arrangement. So when you're doing major servicing, pull a panel off. Pull something out, check in behind it, get the dust out from in behind there, keep it clean. When you've got major downtime on this equipment, that's the time to do those kinds of things. Don't just think, well, it's in behind a panel, so we should never have to worry about it, okay? Because that mentality will get you absolutely nowhere. And 9 times out of 10, it'll happen when you just send it out to a job and something will happen. Oh, we just put it through the workshop and all of this, you know. So get in behind panels, check them all out. Go through and understand your manufacturer's recommendations on everything, you know, from oil change intervals through to, you know, mechanical drive chains when they should be replaced and sprockets and all these kinds of things. Very, very, very important to understand that equipment and what needs to be done and what needs to be focused on with that kind of stuff. So, you know, don't just take our word for it. You need to also go through your manufacturer's specifications. And if you don't know, pick up the phone. They've always got a technical department or something like that, or someone that's more than happy to answer a question for you, you know. Look, I couldn't find in your manual X, Y, and Z. So really, really important. Get the basics of your machine and understand your machine, or the machinery that you're using and the brand of equipment, and get that habit of continually seeing each machine every day. Because once you get on top of the maintenance, once you get on top of all the preventative maintenance, the hard facing and all these kinds of things, it's basic checks, you know, and that's what you're constantly doing. Check. Oh yeah, lunchtime I need to do this. Lunchtime I need to adjust that. This one needs a new conveyor belt on it. Oh, it's got another week till the cycle break. Yeah, it will last until then. Tell the operator, hey, listen, we just need this. The conveyor belt's about to let go. Can we try and sneak it through? Yeah. Speak to the ditch boss. The ditch boss will know. Oh, okay, yeah, no, that's okay, Chris. Chris, you can get that out. We're miles ahead with our trenching. Whatever the case may be, communication. Keep that communication going between all of the relevant parties that are involved. What else with there? It's just that seeing every machine every day and keeping on top of it. Be proactive, be preventative, don't be reactive. You know, if you're reactive and you're waiting for problems to happen, I guarantee you, I'll put everything that I have on it, all in, you will lose, and you'll lose big. 100% of the time that will happen. So prevention is the name of the game, especially with trenching equipment. You know, trenching equipment moves thousands of cubic meters of material, and it's got thousands of moving parts on it. If you're not going to maintain that equipment, sell your equipment, get out of it, because you're not only wasting money, you're literally just throwing money away. That's what you're doing. you're letting your clients down, and you're letting them down big time, because this type of equipment doesn't, it doesn't just break at the end of a project on the last string that you're trenching. It just doesn't happen like that. So, and if you're a client, demand the maintenance. Ask your supplier, what do they have in place for preventative maintenance? How do they preventative maintain their machine? You're entitled to ask these kinds of things. You should be demanding this as a bare minimum if it's someone new that you don't know. If you just, so many people, particularly in this region where I'm based, they see dollar signs because it's big dollars per meter, with a total disregard to what it costs to maintain a trenching machine. This is the downside. Small bites often, as one guy trained me with. Just, it might be big money, but if you're not putting that big money into the maintenance on that machine, it's gonna it could bankrupt you. It really can. That's the type of equipment that it is. It's big ticket items, it's big dollar items, so everything on a trenching machine is expensive, but it is for a reason, because of what it does. Moves thousands of cubic meters, like I keep saying. So look, I hope that's tried to help. I know that it's so difficult to get into, because each machine is different in its own particular way. So I hope that's a bit of a high level, to try and stress enough that preventative maintenance is the cure. Preventative maintenance is the success of any business. So if you're running trenching equipment, don't do what the other people do. It's the market is chock-a-block 100% full of people that don't like to do maintenance in this region over here. Be that shining star, be that shining light, and I guarantee you the clients will come flocking to your door if you do it right. It's imperative to get it right for your client's sake and for your reputation. Your reputation will precede you, as they say. So I hope that's helped, guys. It's that kind of knowledge that I kind of get angry about it, because all I see is wasted money. But I'm passionate about trying to help you guys with the equipment get it right. That's what we're here to do, and we do it quite well. I've had a lot of experience doing these kinds of things, and I'm still learning. We all still learn. I don't know it all, that's for sure. But we've got a lot of information and a lot of knowledge that we can pass on to your guys. And it's not for us to be there all day, every day. If we're doing our job properly, which we do, it's about passing that knowledge on and training your people, so your people can maintain the equipment the same as us. We're your backstop. If we've trained your guys and they've got a problem in the future, pick up the phone. That's what we're here for. And there's nothing stopping us coming and doing some random little audits on your guys to make sure all that's happening as well. So Oryx Consulting, we're here to help with all of your preventative maintenance of your trenching equipment. So pick up the phone, give us a call. Leave us a message. We're very active on LinkedIn, very active on Instagram as well. So there are two major platforms, and of course YouTube. So look, if you really like this content, consider subscribing, hit that bell notification as well. We're trying to get one of these out every week, but with a lot of the clients we've got to keep happy and pass our knowledge on to. Sometimes that's a little bit difficult, but we do everything in our power to try and get one of these out a week. So hopefully that's helped, guys. And if you've got any problems with your trenching equipment, we're here to help. We're here to train your people on what it takes to maintain this equipment correctly. So until next week, stay safe out there, keep digging, and look after your people. And as our video from 2 weeks ago, communication is key, and consistency is key. All right, guys, stay safe. Much love to everyone. Bye.